After the emergence of brain networks, the internet has been abandoned. People rely on small implants implanted next to the temple device, connecting your own brain to the brains of countless others. They form brain networks. Information that used to need to be expressed in images or words will become consciousness, directly understood. You can't describe that feeling. Among colleagues and friends around, only you didn't implant the brain network. Flipping through the phone, the once popular social platform. Now, only occasionally do you see a movement or two. These dynamics come from one of the few people like you, still on the phone, computer conservatives. You can't adapt to this rapidly changing world. Internet for decades changed the way of human life. The brain network, and within a few years, with a whole new speed of information dissemination, mocking people's cognition countless times, the human mind has evolved. Maybe like from ancient apes. After evolving into humans, they began to develop shame. No more urinating anywhere. After humans enter the era of brain networks, the previous bad customs have also completely disappeared. New humanity in a new era is making the world a better place every day. They are approaching the mortals. But you are still an ancient. It's getting harder and harder to understand what the new humans are thinking. And there was a fundraising robot walking by the side of the road. You touch the pocket on your left body, find some change and put it in the donation box. After doing all this, you notice a long queue forming behind you. You watch people throw wads of money, drop in the donation box. As I said before, new humans are constantly bombarded with brain networks, gradually abandon the body evolved. Selfish. It disappears 2 years after the brain network appears. After that day, rich man has become a noun of the past. People are happy to contribute their wealth. In the blink of an eye, people on the street put money into the collection box. The robot's donation box is half filled. You just looked at the fundraiser. Mingmu donates to people in poor countries. Buy expensive watches. The robot turns to you and says, "Good Samaritan, you donated to little money. Please donate more so that I can get off work early." You push him away. He accidentally fell to the ground. This incredible donation. You've seen it. But the behavior of robots not taking their creator seriously still pissed you off. Looking at the machine struggling on the ground, when people think they have only inherited the humility of previous human beings, poor quality, accustomed to the brain, absolutely kind new humans in the internet age, you almost forget what humans used to be like. Your behavior has attracted the attention of those around you. Someone lifts the robot to soothe his non-existent emotions. And some people come up to you and talk to you. We should remind you, your behavior has constituted intentional injury. Maybe you've heard this saying, all beings have equal rights. Robots are no exception. Equality came 2 years after selfishness disappeared. After that day, all animals and plants, robot avatar, even a washing machine, have an equal status with humans. But that equality strikes you as something very explicit. That is regarded by you as food eaten by vegetables and animals. They don't count as lives. You face these innocent people. The good new human is angry. Then he left in the dumbfounded eyes of everyone. Walk into the subway station. A plastic original ticket gate was held out. I'm aware of the eyes. Say thank you to the ticket machine. Pick up the ticket again. You realize the life you're used to. It's absurd. You really can't put that ticket machine. Treat as a person. Flip through the news. A person mistakenly watered a potted plant with boiling water. Convicted of manslaughter. Another man's or injured a river carp. Was also punished. You look out the window at the city. You can't believe it. How could I have such an idea? This world is getting better and better. It seems a little too good. A few days later, you enter the company. The devotion of the new humanity will get them to work half an hour early. But when you sit down, you realize the station is empty. You are not familiar with that call. All I remember is that he was a father. The image that comes to mind when remembering he was always talking about his children. Until the afternoon, that colleague didn't show up. Last time I looked at you, expect someone to tell themselves. Fenyang went to a colleague's house to inquire about the situation. You put your hand up. Then you came to the colleague's house, met his wife and children, but still no whereabouts of colleagues. A day's work is quickly over. Come home at night, in a moment. Cooking, the robot has prepared nutrition for you and your son. A well-balanced dinner. You called your son over for dinner as usual. He sat down at the table as usual. Son even in a period of rebellion, but as new humans implanted in brain networks. He's always been sensible. You have eaten most of the food. But I realized that my son never moved his chopsticks. Facing your inquiring gaze, the son said something unexpected. From now on, I won't eat any more food. At first you thought it was just an occasional joke, but you soon realize he's serious. His rebellion seems to have accumulated until this moment. He doesn't want to listen to your father anymore. Neither majesty nor persuasion can change his mind. You are a little angry. Let him starve. This is the first time you have been angry with your son. You expect him to be soft, but he's determined to fight you. Really didn't take a bite. Wake up the next day. The food on the table sealed with plastic wrap didn't move at all. You think he's probably out of phase. And here he is, fast asleep. Went to work. Come to the company. That position is still empty. Asking colleagues just shook their heads. You have been absent-minded all day. My son is always on my mind, wondering if he was starving. Wondering if he would distance himself. Thinking about these, you sigh again. Colleagues learn the reason. They all laugh at you for spoiling children too much. You just smile helplessly. You know it yourself. For son, you can't wait to empty yourself. Give him all your love. After his wife passed away, the only person who can keep you going is your son. He is all you have. Walking down the street after get off work, you finally couldn't resist calling your son. When you are perturbed, I heard my son's familiar voice. He's not mad at you. Return to the usual well-behaved and sensible. You are finally relieved. At this moment, a face full of a weak person whispers beside you. Can you give me a handout to fill my stomach? You ignore men. When I got home, my son had eaten early. There was only an empty bowl and chopsticks left on the table. The sun is back to normal, but the atmosphere of the whole city, it gets stranger and stranger in the next few days. Whether it's on the street or in the office, people don't know why. You don't look too good. Sure enough, soon after, a colleague suddenly fell to the ground holding a document. And then this kind of thing happened. A few days later, all my colleagues were bloodless, weak. You ask them what's wrong, and their answers surprise you. They just say they're hungry. Their symptoms are indeed caused by hunger. And give them food, and they don't eat anything. They just say we are not qualified to eat them. Everything that happens in the company, it's a microcosm of the world. You look out the window at the city. Pedestrians on the streets are just as depressed. Every now and then someone falls. You notice the beep on your phone. Until then, you finally know. This is a catastrophe for the new human race. And we talk about it more anxiously. There was a thread that said, like when selfishness or other bad habits disappear. This time, the new humans believe all life has equal rights. You find the original origin. It was you who was on the street. I don't know who videotaped those words onto the internet. Then it was transmitted to the brain network. Plants and animals fought back before being killed. We have no right to oppress any life. Through a series of thought fermentation in the brain network, the final choice of new humans is no longer any time. This is beyond your comprehension. Now you just want to find the police. That might give you a sense of security. You walk down the street to shuttle or sit or lie down, or between staggering citizens. Their eyes are empty. The mind and body are being trampled by hunger. You are in front of the window of the police station. Describe everything you see. No response in the window for a long time. You look down. The police are also slumped in their chairs. Can't count on it. After a few days, you suddenly receive a notification from the school. Son fainted. You take him home. Look at his frail appearance. What suddenly occurs to you? Check the usage history of the cooking robot. You find out that your son hasn't eaten at all this week. You look at him. He forced a smile. You take his arm. Unexpected sale. You want to get mad, but in the end, only heartache. You bring food to his mouth. He turned his head and refused to eat. He looks the same as those outside. He even said the same thing as those people. He said he didn't deserve to be them. You stayed by your son's side for 2 days. He only drinks water these 2 days. Even if you put food in his mouth while he's weak, he will spit it out. He still spoke in a weak voice. We are not qualified to eat them. You go out and get the doctor. People fall to the ground. Even if there are bags of food scattered around, they wouldn't take a bite. It's the same in the hospital. You stay by your son's side. There is no way. Thinking that it all started with a word from you, you burst into tears. Son claps your hand to comfort you. Your heartache is worse. A few more days passed. The son lay in bed like a dried weed, light and fragile, in desperate need of nourishment. From a perfect new world collapsing to a living hell, how long will it take? Here's the answer. You can't cry anymore, walking through the streets like a walking dead. Many people around have completely lost their movement. Their scrawny bodies are piled together. You are already numb, only in the cracks of the city, looking for something my son might like to eat. Suddenly, a body on the side of the road jumps at your feet. This action seemed to have exhausted the last of his strength. He looked up, trembling and saying, "I'm hungry." Tear the scattered bread into small pieces. Put it in his mouth. His throat growled. The food was swallowed. This moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, screaming in horror that I am guilty. His hands gradually clenched his throat. You can't stop it. Just watch a life disappear. New ideas are in his mind, left a permanent mark. Insurmountable. Looking at the increasingly cold body in front of me, you realize it's all about you. Suddenly run forward like crazy. You just want to get away from here. I hope it's all just a dream. You run all the way. I really want to leave this world. But I thought of my son. You finally calmed down. Now look around. Unknowingly, it has run to a colleague's house. Looking in through the window, the people in the house are still healthy. And you realize immediately that they have edible food. You knock on the door and beg them. The mother and son open the door. You smell the fragrance wafting out of the room. I quickly said, please give me some food to eat, no matter how much it costs. I would like to. Who knows if they'll hear you out? Directly refuse. Shut the door quickly. Then the curtains are drawn tightly. You stand at the door and don't want to leave. The collision sound of tableware was soon heard in the house. They are the new humans implanted in the brain network. The new idea of equality has long been deeply branded, imprinted in the brain. But they do eat food. Why is that? You stood in front of the door for a long time, listening to the clatter of dinner plates in the room, swallowing saliva. And suddenly you realize something. Turn around and run home. You can't help laughing. Although this smile may seem. In the eyes of the new humans of absolute justice, all life is equal. Humans are not qualified to transform any animal or plant into food. But you think of your missing colleague. You know it stands to reason. Humans can verbally agree to be food for others.